I left Newfoundland, didn't speak to my parents for a long time. A lot of my early relationships with people ended because I wasn't spending enough time with them and I was too interested in my music. And it just became one of those things where I realized that music is all that I can count on. And it stayed that way until I was 30. And my mom, she died when I was 30. And I remember on sort of her deathbed, sort of to be dramatic, she said, Ken, she said, it's great that you're so passionate about your music. She said, but your heart and your world is big enough to have music and people in it. She said, just find a way to balance it. And that actually really stuck with me. And that was when I kind of really settled into, having a family and saying, for the first time in my life, saying, okay, no, music doesn't come first. My wife comes first, my child comes first, my other child comes first. And then eventually, after going through a really weird period of that sort of who's in first place, there was a couple of years of sort of adjustment for me. And then all of a sudden there was nobody in any place anymore. And that's been the last 10 years or so. I've just been learning how to, live a life with people around me and let music be a part of it, but not let music be as dominating as it was.
Yeah. Have you found that taking your mom's advice has raised your quality of life following it?
Yes, it took me a long time to, and it took me a lot of heartbreak and a lot of the stuff that we hear about in the business. You hear these horrible stories about the way that people are treated and the way that things go down and the way that the business works. The reality is that there's massive emotional impact on all of those things. You hear about somebody getting screwed around by their band after all these years, and you hear about record company deals breaking down and all this stuff. Relationships that bands have with their A&R people. Even though we read it as business in the Billboard magazines, the reality is somebody's heart's breaking all the time. Every time you hear about this, every time you hear about something like that happening, somebody's heart's breaking. And those emotional hits and scars, they change who you are as you grow. And my mom's advice, yeah, it was timely, and I sort of understood it at the time, and it did kind of change direction, but it was a massive slow change in direction too.